Welcome to section 5.5. In section 5.5, we're going to take a look at standard form. Before we get started with standard form, let's review how we graphed in slope-intercept form and point-slope form. So take a moment and go ahead and graph these two equations. So remember when we were graphing in slope-intercept form for number 1, we graph our y-intercept first, so we put a dot on 3. From 3, we move down 2 and over 1. So our line would look like this. When we graph in point-slope form, we graph the point, and then from there we move using our slope. So remember our point would be -1, because it's the opposite sign, and +2. So we went over to -1 and up to -2 and put a dot. From there we move down 1, 2, 3, and over 1. So our line would look like this. Our vocabulary word for today is standard, and in general, standard is well known and widely used, something that is well known and widely used. For us, we are more concerned with the math usage, where standard form of linear equation is ax plus by equals c. A, b, and c are real numbers, and a and b cannot both be 0. So, we're going to be looking at graphing today using x and y intercepts. So we've already talked about the y-intercept. That's the point where the where the graph crosses the y-axis. The x-coordinate is the same thing, except it's where the graph crosses the x-axis. So it's the same sort of idea as the y-intercept. Let's just review our old forms that we used. First of all, slope-intercept form. What is it? Remember, it's y equals mx plus b. What do m and b stand for? Well, m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Let's look at point-slope form. What is point-slope form? Well, it's y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. What's the point and what's the slope? Well, m is the slope and the point is x1, y1. Again, standard form of a linear equation is ax plus by equals c. A, b, and c are real numbers, and a and b cannot both be 0. So, it's just another way to write the formula for how to draw a line. Again, the equation is written as ax plus by equals c. X and y are variables. A, b, and c are numbers. So let's take a look here. Which of those linear equations is in standard form? And then I'd like you to identify the forms of the other equations. So let's see how you did. C is in standard form, A and B are both in slope-intercept form, and D is in point-slope form. Let's look at some similarities and differences between these two lines. The first one was graphed using slope-intercept form. The second one was graphed using standard form. What are some similarities and differences that you see? Some similarities that I see are, first of all, they're both straight lines. They both pass through the x and the y-axis at different points. Some differences: with the slope-intercept form, we graph the y-intercept and then use the slope from there. With standard form, however, we're going to be using the x and y-intercepts. So when we're graphing in standard form, we're going to be looking for the x and the y-intercepts. And again, just keep in mind that those are where the line crosses the x and y axes. So if we're looking for the x-intercept, that's when y's are going to equal 0. And if we're looking for the y-intercept, that's when x is going to equal 0. So if you need to find the x-intercept, you're going to substitute every y with a 0. And if you need to find the y-intercept, you're going to substitute every x with a 0. So let's take a look at an example. We're looking at 5x minus 6y equals 60. So to find the x-intercept, we're going to let y equal 0. So we're going to put a 0 in for y. Well, anything times 0 is 0, so 5x minus 0 is equal to 60. So 5x equals 60. Divide both sides by 5, so our x-intercept is 12. To find the y-intercept, we're going to put a 0 in for x. So 5 times 0 minus 6y equals 60. 0 minus 6y equals 60 is negative 6y equals 60. Divide both sides by negative 6, and y is going to equal a negative 10. Let's try another one. Let's find the x-intercept. Remember, to find the x-intercept, we're going to put a 0 in for y. So We have 3x plus 8 times 0 equals 12. 3x plus 0 equals 12. That means 3x equals 12. Divide both sides by 3 to get x equals 4. The next one, to find the y-intercept, we put a 0 in for x. So 3 times 0 plus 8y equals 12. 0 plus 8y equals 12. 8y equals 12. Divide both sides by 8, so y equals 1.5. So, when we're graphing with standard form, we know the equation of the line, we need the coordinates of at least 2 points on the line, and then we're going to plot the x and y intercepts. So, let's just practice using the given intercept. So if we have an x-intercept of 4 and a y-intercept of -2, we're going to find 4 on our x-axis. So we're going to put a dot there. We're going to find -2 on our y-axis and put a dot there. So it's going to look like this, and we're going to connect our 2 dots. Let's try another one. X-intercept of 3, y-intercept of 1. So dot on 3 on the x-axis, dot on 1 on the y-axis, and you connect your points. Now, this time we're graphing the equation 2x plus 5y equals 20. So first of all, we have to figure out the x-intercept, and then we have to figure out the y-intercept. So our x-intercept, remember, we're putting a 0 in for y, so 2 times what gives me 20? Well, 2 times 10 gives me 20. Then we have to put the 0 in for x to find the y-intercept, so 5 times what gives me 20? Well, 5 times 4 gives me 20. So I'm going to put a dot on 10 on the x-axis and a dot on 4 on the y-axis and connect my dots. Let's try another one. We're graphing 2x plus 5y equals 10. So we're going to put a 0 in for x in the first one to find the y-intercept, and a 0 in for y in the second one to find the x-intercept. So my y-intercept is 2, my x-intercept is 5. I put a dot on 2 and a dot on 5, and I connect them. Let's try another one. 8x plus 2y equals 16. Again, to find my y-intercept, a 0 goes in for x, and we solve for y. We end up with y equals 8. And to find our x-intercept, a 0 goes in for y. We have 8x equals 16, so x equals 2. Dot on 8 on the y-axis, 2 on the x-axis, and connect your dots. Take a look at the homework assignment. It's on page 324, numbers 8 to 22.